You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for new set downs on Sunday.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Third Down Squad podcast. It is week 16, and today is actually the first official day of winter, believe it or not, December 21st. Good morning to you, Josh, and good afternoon to you, Toby. All right, let's get started with this. We're going to get started with our weekly recap from last week, week 15. Obviously, some very interesting games, as we will allude to here in the next few minutes. Toby, we're going to start with you. What were some of the biggest things you noticed from last week?
Well, of course, one of the biggest things from last week was the Philadelphia Eagles upsetting the LA Rams at home. I mean, nobody was really expecting that, but the Rams, not really are the team what they were at the beginning of the season. They are struggling a lot, especially on offense. But, I mean, Jared Goff, he kind of had an off game that day against the Eagles. There were a couple of passes. They kind of reminded me of rookie Jared Goff and not what he was under Sean McVay the last two seasons.
Yeah.
But, that was the game for me that stood out. And, of course, again, the Browns winning against the Broncos with that sack on first down a couple of seconds before the game ended. I don't know what happened with the Browns, but they look like a real football team for now. I hope they can keep that up.
Yeah. All right. Josh, what did you see from last week that caught your eye?
Well, as we're going to allude to later, the fact that the Colts blanked the Cowboys for the first time in 15 years, that was nice.
That was very nice.
Yeah. I really wasn't expecting it. And to everybody that saw last week's podcast, I apologize for becoming Skip Bayless and believing the Cowboys were a top 5 team. Forgive me. This is the season of forgiving right now. I hope you all can forgive me at home. I am sorry. I was proven wrong. And the minute I saw that score, I was both happy and saying, well, I got to apologize now. And I'm like, well, they're never making my top 5 again. I can't trust them anymore. But anyway, nothing to take away from the Colts. That was a phenomenal game. The defense actually came out and played like a defense for what I thought was probably the most dominating performance they've had in about 7 years, at least for what I saw. And I like where the defense is going in that way. But another game that stood out to me, I'd have to say, would be the Packers-Bears game. The Bears actually won the NFC North for the first time in, I believe, 6 to 7 years, is it?
I think 8 years. I think it was 2010.
Yeah. And that's good for them because they deserved it, because I was also getting kind of a little bit tired of the Aaron Rodgers Green Bay Packers bandwagon that was going on in the NFC North. So to see the Bears just jump out ahead and beat the Packers, that was probably it for me right there. That's the defining game that could decide to see how far the Bears can get in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stories this week. Obviously, you guys touched on a few of them, and there's plenty of stories that I could get into it this week. But some of the games that stood out to me, the first one was the Redskins and the Jaguars. Josh Johnson getting his first NFL win as a starting quarterback for the Redskins. And the touchdown that he threw was the only touchdown score. I think it said that week before the Eagles game was the only touchdown thrown, or only touchdown at all, by an NFC East team that day up until that point. So the Redskins, obviously, they grinded it out, got a hard-fought win. Good for them. The Jaguars, God, do they look absolutely disgraceful right now. I don't know what it is with them right now. I don't know if they truly do need a quarterback, which we're going to be talking about a lot of in the next few weeks and even today. But my God, they're just like not looking good at all right now. Back to the dumpster fire that they once were. And then the Seahawks losing to the 49ers. Nick Mullins, I don't know where this kid came from, but you know that in his first 6 games, it is now 4th on NFL history for most passing yards by a kid in their first 6 NFL games. It's absolutely insane what he's doing. Like, I saw a question on Instagram, like, is he going to beat Jimmy Garoppolo out for the top quarterback spot? No, he's not.
No.
He's not, because you paid Jimmy Garoppolo the second highest contract in NFL history. You're not going to just sit him. But it's amazing what the 49ers have been able to do. They actually look like a decent football team that if you just gave them a few more weapons on offense, they look like they would and even a few more on defense, they could legitimately be a playoff team. I don't know what happened to the Seahawks defense, but they just looked out of whack in that game. George Kittle that continues to light up. And the last game I'm going to talk about is the Pats. The one time, and I told Toby this, the one time Colts fans were rooting for the Patriots to win a game so we could get in, it didn't happen. I should have expected it. I should have. But, I mean, again, the Patriots are just looking more and more confused, I guess you could say. Gronk is not what he used to be. Josh Gordon, who we're going to talk about later, wasn't performing. The really only target they have right now is Julian Edelman, and that's about it. Tom Brady just doesn't look the same as well. And that Patriots defense also, it was really highly regarded early in the season, but it's not looked very good here recently. All right, so now we're going to talk about our favorite teams, which we're going to start with the Indianapolis Colts. All right, Josh, I want you to start off and tell me a little bit about that game.
All right, so what I've got from that game is a dominant defensive line that we've been begging for. I mean, Zeke barely did anything to help that team. And what was that? What is it that they always say is that when Zeke is under 100 yards rushing, the Cowboys almost always lose?
They almost always lose if somebody's under 100. Yep.
How much did they leave him to in terms of rush yards?
It was 87 yards, and he had like 40-something passing yards as well.
Yeah. So that's clearly, I mean, that's pretty much definitively true now after
very true.
seeing this. And I think my camera just froze.
Ezekiel Elliott
No, it's all right.
Probably Ezekiel Elliott could have maybe had 150 yards. I don't necessarily think that would have changed the outcome of that game.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we're here to talk about the Colts, but I might be focusing a wee bit much on the Cowboys because, I mean, the Colts defense, they did everything correct that you would want them to. But, I mean, I'm going to just say this question right now. Is Dak really worth being your starter now after seeing that he alone can't carry a team like this? He needs Zeke, but when Zeke isn't there, is he elite? I mean, you got to start asking yourself that question.
Very true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
But anyway, back to the Colts. I don't know why I keep diverging to the Cowboys. I'm sorry, I feel like Skip Bayless over here. Give me a Diet Mountain Dew. All right, but Darius Leonard again played phenomenally. Always out there chasing down the quarterback. Is it DeAndre Avery?
Danico Autry.
Dimitri Autry. Oh gosh, I butchered his name. I'm terribly sorry. He was out there making plays left and right, almost to me looking like a prime-time Dwight Freeney.
Yeah.
Always out there reaching the quarterback. And I miss that on our defense. And just to see how he's coming around, I just wonder who's going to be his Robert Mathis in the future. Because we got the old Gary Brackett back and Darius Leonard. We got Dwight Freeney on the defensive line.
Yeah.
Just makes you wonder who's going to pull up the role of Robert Mathis to his Dwight Freeney.
Yeah, well, it certainly helps when Robert Mathis is your defensive line coach. I mean, he definitely has coached those boys very well.
Oh, yeah. But that's, I mean, Marlon Mack, dude. Oh, my goodness. He came out of nowhere again. 2 touchdowns. Jeez, oh, Pete. I really wish I had him in fantasy this week.
139 yards, a career high.
139 yards. Man, it just shows you how much changing an offensive line and getting defensive players really makes.
Oh, yeah.
All right, go ahead, Derek.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Josh said, Cowboys, this is the first time since 2003 that's 240 plus games that the Cowboys have not been shut out. That was, again, a dominating performance by both the O line and the D line. This was one of those few games in Colts history, or especially in recent history, where we said Andrew Luck didn't have to dominate the game, and we dominated. There's been maybe a handful of games that's happened like that, especially recently, because Andrew Luck has always had to have a monster game for us to win. But this time it was not dominated by him. He only had 192 passing yards. He only threw the ball 24 times. He didn't have to throw the ball. The O-line stumped the number one rush defense in the NFL, went through them, was aggressive, and Marlon Mack had a career day. They stepped up, and like you said, Josh, the defensive line. This defensive line for the Colts is overperforming compared to what many people thought would not happen. Tyquan Lewis, the draft pick that we got this year from the Ohio State Buckeyes, had 2 sacks last game. Those were his first 2 sacks of his career. And like you said, Danico Autry, he is playing out of his mind right now. Marcus Hunt had a huge defensive stop on a 4th and 1. Down in the red zone early in the game. Jabal Sheard is still in there. That defensive line is actually a very good defensive line right now. And again, Darius Leonard, if you don't have this man as your defensive rookie, just stop. You don't know football. I'm going to say that every time. Especially at the end of the game, he made fun of Leighton Vander Esch by doing his own wolf howl at the end of the game. And obviously that was a shot at Leighton Vander Esch. But again, he is just the rock to this defense. The defense made big plays. They eliminated the big plays, basically, keeping Amari Cooper from going down the field and blowing them up. And yeah, again, when if Marlon Mack keeps having these kinds of games, it's very hard to say that the Colts are going to spend money on Le'Veon Bell. The more I keep seeing Marlon Mack doing this, I think why are we going to spend $15 million a year on another running back? We have Marlon Mack, and you have Jordan Wilkins and Nyheim Hines coming out of the backfield as well. I mean, it's
amazing what your running backs look like when your offensive line gives them holes to work with.
Yeah. That's the thing is we're not talking enough about this O-line. Like, this O-line is absolutely insane. Some of the defensive lines they had to face this year. And when you face the number one run defense, you expect to only get like a few yards rushing. But they took that challenge, and they got 140 yards on the best defensive line that's able to stop the run. It's absolutely insane. And I did love seeing Quentin Nelson pancake Leighton Vander Esch a bunch of times. That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's enough about the Colts. I think we pretty much made our message clear. Toby, your Saints had a very close one against Carolina. Explain to us what happened there.
Yeah, actually, before I'm gonna go to the Saints, I just Josh isn't the only one that has to apologize about last week's podcast. But I gotta say, after watching your guys' game last week, Darius Leonard, he's the defensive rookie of the year for sure. I just wanted to bring up Bradley Chubb's name last week because I feel like he's kind of gets snubbed in the discussion for defensive rookie of the year. But just for that. But now coming to the New Orleans Saints. And yeah, like Derek already said, we had a really close one against Carolina. Only 3 points between the two teams with a score of 12-9, which doesn't really look like the Saints that we know from the last couple of years. It usually was a really high-scoring game, a battle of the offenses, and not really a defensive game, but that kind of changed the last 2 weeks, or 3 weeks actually. But I'm not really concerned about what happened the last 3 weeks. There are a lot of, well, I'd call them people who call themselves Saints fans, but aren't really Saints fans, that are saying, what do we want to, where do we want to go with that team? As soon as we get a good team, we are losing again. But there is one thing why I'm not concerned with the last 3 games, and that's because all of these games were on the road. Was no game in the dome so far that the Saints really had a close one yet in the last couple of weeks. So, and it looks like the remainder of the season, the Saints will play at home. The last 2 games in the regular season are at home. It looks like they will be the number 1 seed in the NFC, which means they will have all their playoff games, if there are multiple playoff games, in the dome as well. So there are no road games left on the schedule for the Saints. The only road game might be the Super Bowl in Atlanta. So, and the Saints are known to be better at home than on the road. So, I kind of want to see how they're playing against Pittsburgh this week at home again. And one thing that might help them as well is that Ted Ginn Jr. might be back this week after being on injured reserve for a couple of weeks. But he's back at practice, so he might get Drew Brees, another receiver that has the experience in the NFL, and he just doesn't have to rely that much on Michael Thomas, and can have a second receiver that is not an undrafted free agent, really. One problem, though, is with the injuries to the offensive line right now. Of course, Teron Armstead has been out for the last 3 weeks. And I think that was a really big part for the offense as well, and why they didn't score that many points, because he's a big part of the offensive line, and they had to move Andrews Pete out to left tackle. He usually plays guard, and play Jerome Bushrod at the guard position. So it was kind of a weird dynamic in the offensive line on the left side, which didn't really help the run game as well, which you've seen the last 3 weeks with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. They didn't put up their usual numbers. So if he comes back in this or next week, or I don't know if he has to play in the next week, because if they win against Pittsburgh this week, they already have the number 1 seed in the NFC. They might rest a couple of their starters in week 17, which I'm kind of, I don't like the idea of resting them in week 17, because having 2 bye weeks back to back, you kind of, I don't know, I feel like you have to get in the rhythm of the game, and 2 weeks off will throw some, especially younger players, off a little bit, I fear. So I would like to see them kind of doing a couple of snaps with the starters, or the first half with the starters in week 17, and then just taking them out of the game for the second half, something like a preseason game or something. But yeah, the offensive line, of course, there are a couple of other injuries. For example, with Max Unger, with the concussion that he got in the game against Tampa Bay. He was back in practice in a limited fashion on Wednesday. So he's looking good that he can come back against Pittsburgh, which will help them a lot as well, because Tom at center was not really that effective. There was a couple of rushes by Tampa Bay that came through the middle and got to Drew Brees. But yeah, like I said, Max Unger looks like he's coming back this week as well. So the Saints should be better now that a couple of players are coming back.
Yeah. All right. Well, Toby's given us a little bit about the Saints. We're now going to move on to the Pro Bowl voting selection. So as everyone knows, the Pro Bowl voting was released earlier this week. Obviously, some of the names have been released. And I don't think Toby has a graphic or anything for this,
Nope.
but some of the obviously every year we have a few questions on whether or not somebody should have been selected for the Pro Bowl, whether or not they deserved it or didn't deserve it. I definitely can name a few people, but Josh, I'm going to start with you. Do you think that there was anyone that was snubbed of the Pro Bowl selection this year that should have gotten it?
Oh gosh, yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so.
I think I know where this is going.
And I think his name is oh gosh, it starts with his last name starts with an L, and his first name starts with an A. Oh, that's right, Andrew Luck. Not even considered. You
Yeah, he
kidding
was an
me?
alternate.
He was on. He wasn't even on the snub list. He got snubbed by the snubbers. Are you kidding me? After this season he's having, I mean, sure the Pro Bowl is just one of those. All right, let's see who's got the better division kind of games.
Right.
But I mean, to at least have Andrew Luck. I mean, have him be like the third string quarterback if that's what you think. Tom Brady isn't having the best season of his career. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Andrew Luck is way better than Tom Brady right now.
Yeah.
Sure, you can say, oh, but he beat him in the head-to-head. But no, we're talking overall season here, folks.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's fading. He's almost done. And you should let Andrew Luck take his place in the AFC divisional quarterback. That's probably my biggest one right there, Derek. Which one was yours?
Well, first, before we get into a couple of these that I thought should have been different, congratulations to Quentin Nelson and Eric Ebron, the two Colts that were selected to go. You two have had great seasons. You definitely deserve it. I'm on the same board with you, Josh. I believe that Andrew Luck should replace Tom Brady because I agree with Patrick Mahomes and Phillip Rivers being there. They totally deserve it. But I think Andrew Luck has had the season in which Tom Brady really hasn't. Tom Brady's had, again, I know he's had a slightly better QBR, slightly more yards, and a slightly better completion percentage. But Andrew Luck has had more touchdowns. He's had to deal with a drop rating of his receivers that are much worse than Tom Brady's. I totally believe Andrew Luck deserves to be in there, but he's not my biggest one. And as you and I and all three of us have already discussed, and we believe this was a total snub, Darius Leonard should have been in the Pro Bowl instead of C.J. Mosley and Brendan McKinney. Those two do not deserve to be in there. Please show me the logic and why those two were selected versus Darius Leonard. He beats them in every statistical category. Not to mention the Colts are having just as good a seasons as those two teams are, as those two players' teams are. If you mix those two stats together, they only beat Darius Leonard in passes defended and tackles. But then again, that's supposed to happen when you have two players. But he beats them in sacks. He beats them in tackles for loss. He beats them in turnovers forced and recovered, everything. So it's absolutely ridiculous that Darius Leonard did not get in. There's plenty of rookies that I can go down this list on and say they got in. I mean, obviously the rookies, Saquon Barkley and a couple others got in on offense, but and Denzel Ward even got in as a cornerback. Like, why is it Darius Leonard, who's possibly making a discussion for defensive player of the year, let alone defensive rookie of the year, why is he not getting talked about more? Like, I get that he's on the Colts, and the Colts don't get a lot of talk time, as you would say, but it just makes no sense. Anyone who watches football knows Darius Leonard's having the best season of football than anyone's having this year. It's absolutely insane. Quick side note, Eric Ebron was talking to Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard said, I want to get 40 tackles this week because I got snubbed. He said, that's not humanly possible. It's like, I don't care. That's a good one. So,
Yeah.
but the only other one that I would change, only other suggestion I would make is Russell Wilson over Aaron Rodgers. I don't believe Aaron Rodgers deserves to be in this year. I truly don't. I believe Russell Wilson's had a much better season. I think that his team obviously is having the better season. I think Russell Wilson, if you look at the numbers, he's had better numbers. His team's had a better year. Why is it that he's not in? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers got in because of
Name.
The
favoritism
name, yeah.
and the name. Yeah. So
Name for Tom Brady.
So basically, my three suggestions were Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson over Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and then obviously Darius Leonard should have been in there. Toby, what do you think?
Yeah, I got the exact same three as snubs. Yeah, of course, Darius Leonard, you guys talked about him. He should be in there for sure. If you have better numbers than the two guys that were selected combined, um, that's kind of crazy. Uh, and of course, Andrew Luck. I don't know. Tom Brady's in there because he is the GOAT, which for me he's not.
Mhm.
But yeah, and same with Aaron Rodgers again. I also would take Russell Wilson as the NFC quarterback at number 3. Yeah, like you already said, Derek, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers just got in because of the name. They were probably because of the fan votes. I don't think that anybody that works in the NFL thinks that Tom Brady this year is better than Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
But that's what the Pro Bowl is. Now we could discuss if the Pro Bowl should really be a thing anymore in the NFL, but that's another topic.
Yeah.
But one thing that kind of bugs me as well in the player selection is that Alvin Kamara didn't make it. Of course, because he's in the top 10 or top 5 in every stat for running backs right now. But of course, when you're in the same conference as Saquon Barkley, Todd Gurley, and Ezekiel Elliott, which are the top 3 running backs right now in the league, if you're the number 5 guy in the league, you don't make the Pro Bowl. It's as easy as that. But yeah, that is one player that from the Saints side that I would have liked to see in the Pro Bowl, but like I said, there are a lot of other guys there. And on the defensive side, I would have loved to see a Sheldon Rankins in there because this guy is just destroying offensive lines right now. But interior linemen in the NFC, it's the same as with the running backs. Aaron Donald, Akeem Hicks, and all the other guys. You have so many good guys in there. But yeah, that's the 2 guys from the Saints that I feel like are getting a little bit snubbed. But like I said, they're just other players that are at the top of the league or better than them because Alvin Kamara and Sheldon Rankins are at the top of the league right now and could have made the Pro Bowl in other years, but yeah, the position grouping in the NFC is really strong right now at their positions. But yeah, that's but real snubs, I gotta agree with you there, Andrew Luck, Darius Leonard, and of course we got Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the main 3.
And to you Lions fans out there, see what happens when you actually use Eric Ebron and you actually know how to throw it to him.
Yes.
He has a Pro Bowl season.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's having the best season of any tight end this year, so.
Hashtag Eric did nothing wrong.
Exactly,
yeah.
All right, Toby, time for us to get started with some news around the NFL.
We got, of course, this week, again, news around the NFL. There are a couple this week. And, of course, starting off with the Baltimore Ravens, which no longer have Joe Flacco as their starter from this week onwards. Lamar Jackson will start from now on. They will probably try to trade Joe Flacco in the offseason. So, who do you guys think? Which team should really trade for Joe Flacco? Is there a team that is in need of a quarterback like Joe Flacco?
The obvious answer is the team that needs the quarterback the most, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, whether or not that fits into the system, that's up for the Jacksonville Jaguars to decide. Obviously, they're going to be eyeing a quarterback in the draft if they can get one. If Dwayne Haskins is going to be in the draft this year, whether or not he is, we'll have to see what he decides. But I think he will be, and I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will be eyeing him a lot. You could even make the argument of the New York Giants. Obviously, Joe Flacco's a slightly better comparison to Eli Manning right now. Joe Flacco's obviously not a top 15 quarterback right now, but he's a guy that's obviously still got the ability to throw the football downfield. And I think the Giants and the Jaguars are the big 2 ones right now.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on that. I mean, they are clearly, both teams are in need of a very good quarterback. And I think what you're getting with Flacco is pretty much going to be like, another Eli Manning for the Giants. I mean, he's big, and his arm is still pretty good. But I guess we can all say that we were right with that meme of Joe Flacco isn't elite.
Yeah.
You know, he only won the one Super Bowl on that great Ravens defense. I'm going to pretty much stand by that.
Yeah.
And one more thing, if the Redskins don't get Alex Smith back, that could be another destination.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's another one. This is like, I honestly think that if Dwayne Haskins isn't going to the draft, he's going to Jacksonville. That's the way I see it. But the Giants, I don't know if they're quite ready to move on from Eli Manning. I know their fans are, but I don't think the team is. So I think the Jags are a better fit for Joe Flacco. And I think we've seen this case before with the 49ers. Pretty much the young rookie or like the mobile quarterback, forces the more experienced veteran quarterback to go to another team. I think we're just seeing it again. What is it with both Harbaughs and that happening, where a mobile quarterback comes into their system and chases out the veteran?
True, yeah.
But that's what I'm thinking. I think it's just going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars that are going to get him.
Yeah, the Jags are on the top of my list as well. And yeah, Josh, like you said, New York, the team is not ready to get away from Eli Manning. And I think it was actually Pat Shurmur last week or 2 weeks ago that said that he sees Eli starting for a couple more years. So I don't think
that to you Giants fans.
Yeah, I don't think that Giants are in the market for a quarterback right now. But yeah, like Derek already said, good luck to the Giants there. And of course, yeah, like you said, Derek, Alex Smith, I don't know if he's coming back. He just got released out of hospital this week. So of course, good luck to him to get back into the NFL. But even if he's coming back, I don't know, with that kind of injury, are you actually getting back to the level that you once were? And I don't think that with that injury, I don't think he's ready for next season. So the Redskins have to look for a quarterback next season. So they might look at Joe Flacco, give him a 1-year prove-it deal, and see what he can do next season, with Alex Smith possibly out for next season and then coming back the year after. So that's the two teams really, because I don't see the Giants as a possibility from what Pat Shurmur said last week. So
I mean, we can all agree the Giants should shop for a quarterback. They just don't want to.
Yeah, probably, yeah. So, and we can agree that Joe Flacco will stay on the East Coast.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah. So, the next news, also concerning a quarterback from formerly the East Coast, now going to the West Coast, is Nathan Peterman, who just signed with the Oakland Raiders. I don't know what's going on with John Gruden over there. I said it in a couple of podcasts before that I kind of think that I know what he's doing over there, but I don't know what he did there. So my simple question to you guys is, why? Just why?
Josh, please explain.
All right. Quarterback review. All right.
Here we go.
Let's go over it again. Remember when Nathan Peterman threw like 4 or 5 interceptions in a game right after they said, Tyrod, we're going with the young guy?
In the first half,
that's what's going to happen again, except in Oakland. And I honestly think that John Gruden's there just to screw over the Raiders and leave at this point. I mean, who brings in Nathan Peterman? I mean,
don't know.
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. It's, geez, oh, Pete, John, just go back to Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
This is embarrassing right now. I was told by my parents that you are one of the great quarterbacks that knew, or like great head coaches that knew everything about football. And I look at you today and I go, is he insane? What?
Yeah.
Why? Why? Derek, tell me why.
Well, it's reported. We all kind of see that John Gruden likes to live in the past. You know, when he first saw Nathan Peterman going into the draft, he actually thought that Nathan Peterman was actually a solid kid that had a good head on his shoulders and had a decent talent for football. I think that he probably hasn't even recognized the fact that the half a dozen games that Nathan Peterman's played in, he's had more. He's having the same treatment as Blake Bortles has, like 3 times as many interceptions as he does touchdowns, and I and you got Nathan Peterman got beat out by a quarterback that many people said Josh Allen was going to be sitting for a year or two to get better, let alone now Josh Allen is actually making the Bills team actually pretty decent. Uh I don't understand this move. I mean, you wouldn't sign another quarterback unless you weren't confident that Derek Carr is in a good position where he is now. I mean, I don't know who the Raiders' original backup quarterback was. I don't know if he had faith in him when he came out. I don't get this move at all. I mean, we've already said it. Nathan Peterman is the dumpster fire of quarterbacks in the NFL. This kid should not have a job. Listen, Colin Kaepernick has a lot of baggage, but that dude can actually play football. Nathan Peterman does not deserve a job now. He does not. I mean, I don't understand this move. Maybe Toby can give us some insight as to why
No,
this is happening.
like I said, I don't understand the move at all. Um, I first thought it was a joke when I read first that John Gruden would be interested in Nathan Peterman. But apparently they see something in the kid. I don't think that he'll survive the next off season. So I think it might be just signing for depth for the last 2 games this year. And yeah, after the year he's gone. I hope so, because like Derek, like you said, Nathan Peterman, with the performance that he showed in Buffalo, he does not deserve a job in the NFL. Especially not over Colin Kaepernick. So yeah, I don't get the move. I hope it's just for 2 games to add depth in case Derek Carr gets hurt again, and that's all they are looking for, and not for maybe a starter next season. Because if that's their plan,
If he's the starter next season, I will pay to watch every one of those games and see him throw 3 or 4.
yeah. Well, that move, I don't know. But yeah, next topic going on is, well, Derek, you already hinted at that at our last week's recap. Is Josh Gordon being suspended again indefinitely for substance abuse again? He, of course, was traded to the New England Patriots by the Cleveland Browns. The Patriots got a 5th round, gave up a 5th round pick and got a 7th round pick with Josh Gordon, and they got a production out of him for 720 yards, 3 touchdowns in 11 games, which is, for that kind of price, a really good production for 11 games.
Right.
And I mean, we all saw that the Patriots needed another wide receiver. And that brings me to the question now. How does it affect the Patriots that Josh Gordon will not be there for the last 2 games in the regular season, and of course for the playoff run?
Well, first up, prayers up to Josh Gordon. I mean, obviously this dude is dealing with some very bad mental health problems right now, and it's good that he's deciding to step away from football for a while. and focus on his mental health. He's taking the right thing. Prayers up to him. I really hope that he does really well and hopefully decides to come back again. But yeah, back to the question of it, this definitely hurts. I mean, it really, really hurts. I mean, I already said how Gronk is a step behind what he used to be. He's not what he used to be, and Josh Gordon was projected to be this Randy Moss type figure. I mean, he was your guy that could burn anybody downfield, make amazing catches, do anything you needed it to. And considering those 11 games, he played he played maybe 11 snaps in the first game and played like 20 in the next game. So it wasn't like he was getting big numbers until like the third week that he was there. So basically, if you want to talk about it, he really only had like 9.5 weeks and getting that production. And honestly, I didn't even think with Julian Edelman coming back, obviously that took away some of his thunder. But yeah, this will hurt the Patriots again because we saw how tough it was for Tom Brady to get to his receivers last game against the Steelers. And if that was hard enough as it was there, how much worse is it going to get when he faces a really good defense and somebody that can actually adapt to his system?
Yeah.
I mean, Julian Edelman's still there. Gronk is still there, although a step behind. But really, who else do they have at receiver that's a big name guy? They really don't have anyone else.
No, not really.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Derek. I think that this will end up hurting in the end
Yeah.
because we're seeing the I guess like you could say the final season or seasons of the Patriots dynasty because
Yeah.
time has finally caught up with them, and I think what really hurt Gronk in the end was getting juked out by Kenyon Drake in that Miami game, where after that I could kind of tell that he just was shaken by it, that he didn't look like himself. But
Yeah.
back to Josh Gordon, even though he's had a fairly decent season with 3 touchdowns and over 700 yards receiving, I still think that, man, I guess, yeah, he's just one less weapon for Tom Brady to use, and they're not going to be in Foxborough for the playoffs because they're the 3rd seed.
Right.
Which that's also going to play a factor into how they play because the Patriots love Foxborough in the playoff time and they can't go there.
You know that this season the Patriots have yet to win on the road.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. And like man, this is kind of hard because you want to root for Josh Gordon. But then when something like this happens where he gets suspended again, I'm trying to all right, remind me again, what was it for?
Substance abuse.
Yeah, substance abuse. He slipped back into the problem that he was having.
Look, he's got to get better. And if he doesn't, he's going to be considered the biggest waste of talent in the NFL because we never got to see him fulfill what he was drafted to do. And that's what keeps driving me crazy about this whole thing is that I want to see that 2012 all the way up to 2014 Josh Gordon, the one that had like 3 consecutive games with over 200 yards receiving. That one.
Yeah.
But what do we get in the end? We just get this. And I know substance abuse is a big thing in America right now, but I mean, come on, Josh. I
mean, let's be honest here. I mean, let me bring you up to another example. Just this summer, Demi Lovato. I know it's not football related, but let's just use it as an example. Yeah. Demi Lovato was 6 years sober from having a drug and alcohol problem. She almost overdosed several times before that, and then just out of nowhere, over the summer, almost OD'd again from that issue. I mean, that's the thing. You can be done with drug addiction for years. It looks like you're on the perfect path. You're done with it. And then all of a sudden it takes that one time and then you almost do it and kill yourself from it. I mean, this is a severe problem. But other than, what he used to do, which was put that problem aside and then just keep doing it and not getting help, he's doing the right thing for himself to really try and get himself better so that way one day he might be able to come back and play.
Yeah, but remember, time waits for no one. So
Yep, that's
That's
true.
true, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you guys already said, I think it's a big blow to the Patriots, especially in the playoffs. Because yeah, Derek, you already said it. Their receivers now are Gronk, who is not the Gronk that we are used to seeing. He
Right.
doesn't produce anymore. He's old, he's slow, his back injuries caught up to him and all the other injuries that he had. Same with Julian Edelman. He's not the same guy, the speed receiver that had that great catch in Super Bowl 51 against Atlanta. He just doesn't make the big catches anymore. And the other two guys they right now have are Chris Hogan and Cordell Patterson. Not really the guys that you want to rely on when you're going into the playoffs, and probably are not playing at home in the divisional round. And yeah, you probably have to go either to Arrowhead or down to Houston. So, not two teams that you would really like to play on the road against right now. So, for the Patriots, they don't really have a guy anymore for Tom Brady to rely on in the pass, or in the deep passing game at least. In the short passing game, they still have James White, who is pretty good on the slant routes. So, but they don't really have the guy for the big plays anymore on their roster without Josh Gordon. And that's the part that's going to hurt them a lot in the playoffs and for the remainder of the regular season.
Yep.
And yeah, now next topic. We're not going to have a discussion on that, but it concerns another quarterback. It's about Cam Newton, who will sit out this week against Atlanta with a shoulder injury, which has been bugging him for a couple of weeks now. You could kind of see it in the last couple of games. And really against New Orleans, he couldn't really go through the ball when he was throwing it and couldn't get an accurate throw out and couldn't really throw a deep ball. So they kind of went with the cautious play there to kind of not have the same as you guys had in Indianapolis with Andrew Luck over the last couple of years.
Yeah, don't do it, because if you think Cam Newton can get you to the promised land within the next 5 years, you want to make sure he has one of those years to do it.
Yeah, and it doesn't really matter for them anyways, because with the loss to New Orleans last week, they are out of contention for the playoffs. And the last topic for the news around the NFL, which came out yesterday, is that Denver is expected to fire their head coach, Vance Joseph, after the season. They are also out of the playoffs with the loss to Cleveland last week. And of course, this offseason could be kind of fun with the head coaches, because there were a couple of head coaches that have been fired the last couple of weeks. We had a couple of discussions about head coaches on our podcast. And yeah, there are a lot of teams looking for new head coaches. And yeah, there might be a lot of new guys in the league that not so many people know about for now. So this will be a fun one to discuss after the season.
Right.
And now we are coming to a quick rundown of the playoffs to kind of, what we think, who will, not really a playoff picture like we did a couple of weeks ago, but just, kind of our quick predictions for the playoffs. We think who is in, who is out, who will go far in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we already know that, we kind of have this. The Colts need to have the Saints beat the Steelers and the Chargers beat the Ravens this week. We obviously don't need both of them to lose, but we obviously need one of them to lose. But of course, both of them are underdogs in this week against their opponents, because the Saints and the Chargers are both one of the top 3 teams in the league. I mean, that's the thing. I think everyone knows it's down between Tennessee and the Colts as the last team to get in. And obviously the Colts and the Tennessee Titans need to win this week. And then obviously whoever wins the last week of the season, since they play each other, that will decide the ultimate playoff factor. if somebody could tell me, I don't really know for week 17. Does anyone know who the Steelers and the Ravens play? I'm not 100% sure of that one,
Yeah, hang
but
on.
but I think the big question also, while Toby looks that up, is possibly seeing the Cowboys. We don't know for an absolute fact yet whether or not they can actually get in. If they lose out and the Eagles win out, then the Eagles would actually take their spot. So, of course, Stephen A. Smith was really happy about the first take, I might add. But yeah, I mean, there's still a possibility for that one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and so Derek, you asked, the Ravens are playing at home against the Cleveland Browns, and the
Okay.
Raiders are at Arrowhead against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that yeah, the Ravens and the Steelers need to lose this week in order to have the Colts have a chance. And
Mhm.
of course the Colts have to win because we can't take the Giants lightly. The Giants obviously have a very good offense. But we'll see where that goes from here on out. But I think the Colts will get in this week.
Yeah. I think that if for some reason the Colts don't get in, I think that the Chargers have the chance to make it pretty much all the way to the championship game. And I think that this is going to be a bold prediction right now, but with the way the Chargers are playing, I could see it being the Texans and the Chargers in the AFC championship game. Or if the Chargers play the Texans, then I think that that would be a doozy. But can we just talk about how the Browns are in the playoff picture in the hunt?
Yeah, Toby,
Yeah, but
tell the people
very,
how
very unlikely because
Did you see everything that has to happen for them to make it?
yeah,
yeah,
they have to win
Like
out.
Armageddon.
They have to
they
win
have to
out.
win out. Colts have to lose this week as well as Tennessee, and then both teams are playing each other in week 17, and they have to tie, which would bring up a three-way tie between the Colts, the Tennessee Titans, and the Cleveland Browns, with the Cleveland Browns having the tiebreaker in that one, and the Browns are in, Colts and Titans are out of the playoffs. Chances for that to happen are 0.14%.
I
Yeah.
would say it's even lower, honestly, if you take into consideration that the Colts have never lost to the Titans
Yeah.
ever since Andrew Luck's been the quarterback.
Yeah. But as much as I like that statistic, I still have to sit there and just everything from my fingers to my toes crossed that for some reason this isn't the game. The game that doesn't, or it's Andrew Luck's first loss to the Titans. But I think that, to quote Thanos on this one, the team that is perfectly balanced will end up making it all the way to the Super Bowl. And I think that would be the Chargers right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and if the Colts get in, that's another one too. The Chargers and the Colts in the AFC are the two most balanced teams in the NFL right now.
Everybody else but the Chargers and the Colts snapped away.
Yeah, it will be kind of fun to see how this will play out, because I mean, if the Chargers are at the number 5 seed and the Colts are at the number 6 seed, they will probably play in the conference championship game. So that will be a fun one to see the number 5 seed and number 6 seed play in the conference championship, because I see them as the two best teams in the AFC right now. Because the Chiefs kind of declined after they lost Kareem Hunt, so they are not the team that should be in the number 1 position anymore, because the Chargers are the lot better team in the AFC West right now. So, but yeah, not too much about it. And one thing I kind of see happening, I talked to Derek about it before. I kind of see the Cowboys dropping from winning the NFC East to actually Eagles being the winner of the NFC East, because with what they played against the Rams, I don't think that the Eagles won the game themselves, but were given the game by Jared Goff, how he played that game again. But I feel like the Eagles could be the number 4 seed in the NFC and kind of repeat the underdog story from last year. Of course, I don't see them going to the Super Bowl again. They don't have the team for it. this year they are not in the form that they need, don't have the momentum that they need that they had last year. But of course, playoffs are always a different kind of playing field than the regular season. Everything's different in the playoffs. But that's the one thing that I see kind of changing is the Eagles over the Cowboys. And maybe the Cowboys then getting in over the 6th seed
Right.
wild card over right now the Vikings. So we have two NFC's teams in the playoffs. But yeah, that's kind of how I see playing out. And when we're already here, kind of curious to hear from you guys. What's your predictions? The two teams that are going to the Super Bowl this year.
Two teams. I think it's got to be the Saints and I think the Chargers, just because those two teams are the most balanced teams on their side. I love the Bears, I really do, but I don't know if their offense is quite there, and I know the Saints will figure out a way to just kind of figure out their little offensive troubles that they're having, and the Chargers, like I said, are the most balanced team in the NFL. They're loaded at every spot. They have depth. That's why those two teams are just where they're at right
All right, so an early Super Bowl prediction. I'm going to assume the Colts make the playoffs for this one. I'm going to say it's going to be a Super Bowl 44 rematch between the Colts and Saints in Atlanta. And
no, if that happens, we're buying tickets to go to Atlanta and we're going. Toby, you're going too, okay? We're going to Atlanta.
Yeah. I just think that if the Colts make the playoffs, and if they don't, then I got the Chargers in that spot as well. But I'm going to give it to the Colts because they're playing magnificently, and they just need to win out and have everybody else lose. That's all it's going to take. Yeah. So I think that's going to be, depending if the Colts make it, after all, it's a Super Bowl 44 rematch in Atlanta.
Yeah, I see it the same way as Josh. I see a Super Bowl 44 rematch. And like I said, I'm seeing Chargers Colts in the conference championship. And Chargers, of course, will have the home field advantage, but, you know, they're playing at StubHub Center with 32,000 people in there with probably 75% being away fans anyway. So it's not really a home game for the Chargers either. So my feeling is that the Colts can make it all the way. They are a great team right now. I don't know. The Chargers game will be a close one, but Chargers, Colts, best teams in the AFC for me right now, and the Colts, I think, can beat the Chargers if they want it bad enough, and I think they do.
Yeah, I love how we completely ignored the Kansas City Chiefs there. I mean, I know obviously Kansas City is the offensive juggernaut, but they have no defense.
Yeah, that's the whole reason.
Yeah, that's the whole reason. And I mean, look at Kansas City in the playoffs. Look at Andy Reid's record in the playoffs. I'm not confident about Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm not confident about it either.
Okay,
remember
so
Kansas City blew that lead against the Colts?
Yeah.
Pepperidge Farm Raiders.
That was the greatest game ever. Greatest game ever.
All right, yeah, that's our playoff predictions. Now we're coming to our predictions for Week 16. And we have the first game up between the Washington Redskins and the Tennessee Titans.
Tennessee will keep going with their momentum from last week. The Redskins won't get lucky this time. Give me the Titans.
Yeah, the Redskins don't really have much in terms of offensive and defensive capability, so I'll take the Titans.
Yeah, after that game against the Giants last week where they were just blowing out the Giants, I got to go with the Titans in that game as well. Of course.
Sorry. Wasn't that one also a blank on the Giants?
Yeah, it was 17-0, I believe.
Yeah, 17-0.
And the second game on Saturday is between the Baltimore Ravens and the LA Chargers.
I believe the Chargers will show everyone just how good they are against the number one defense, especially since they'll have both of their running backs back for this week. Give me the Chargers.
Yeah, I'll take the Chargers on this one as well.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Chargers. I think it's closer than a lot of people think because Baltimore is playing pretty good right now. But in the end, the Chargers, like Derek already said, they're a complete team and are just better right now than the Ravens. Next up, battle in Ohio between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
I screwed this pick up once already from earlier this year. I will not do it again. I am picking the Browns this week.
Nathan, you're going to get your $50 from Nick. Give me the Browns on this one.
I'm also going with the Browns. Cincinnati is just I don't know how to describe them right now.
Hey, the Raiders beat the Steelers, and then the Bengals beat the Raiders. Does that mean the Bengals are better than the?
I think it is.
You could see it that way, yeah.
I think, and really quick for the audience that doesn't know, my cousin Nathan and Nick made a bet that if one of their teams swept the other, they give the other one $50. So Nathan's in the driver's seat right now. So if the Browns beat the Bengals this week, he gets $50. But if they tie, they get nothing. So
go Nate.
All right. Next game up is between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm going to give this one to the Cowboys against my better judgment, but I think the Cowboys will bounce back from having issues with the Colts. They'll be at home against the Buccaneers. Give me the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are going to bounce back too against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I also think so because, Dallas at home in Jerry's house. It's not gonna be easy for Tampa Bay, and I mean they had a couple of weeks where they had a good run, but the last 2 weeks not that great, so I'm giving it to Dallas.
Yeah.
And the next one, NFC North matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions.
Well, we saw last week what Kirk Cousins can do to an awful pass defense. I don't think this week will be any different. Give me the Vikings.
Yeah, I'll take the Vikings in this one. I just don't trust Matt Stafford at all right now to win.
Yeah, I also go with the Vikings here. I don't only trust Matt Stafford right now. I don't trust the entire Lions team right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that much better with the Vikings, but I think they just have the better players on the team right now.
Yeah.
Next game, another divisional matchup in the AFC East between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots.
You know, I was half tempted to give Buffalo the edge on this one because of how the Patriots have done and how the Bills have looked recently, but it's in the Patriots' house. I'm gonna think they bounce back and barely win this one. Give me the Patriots.
Oh boy.
What is Josh gonna pick?
This one's hard. You know what? I'm living on the edge. Give me the Bills in this one. I just think that the Patriots are too shook right now.
And then watch, Josh is actually gonna win.
Yeah, I was also tempted to pick the Bills in that game, and like Derek, I probably would give it to the Bills if it was in Buffalo, but in Foxborough, New England is usually a strong team to beat, and I don't think a rookie like Josh Allen is kind of there to beat the Patriots at home, so I'm giving it to the Patriots in this one. But yeah, again, I think it's a closer matchup than a lot of people think.
Yeah. Remember when I picked the Broncos over the Chargers? And I said the Broncos have that one game where they just show up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say the same thing for the Bills. I think the Bills are going to show up in Foxborough.
All right, the next game up is between the Green Bay Packers and the New York Jets.
No explanation, just give me Green Bay.
Yeah, I'll take Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm also going with Green Bay. Next game up is between the Houston Texans and the Philadelphia Eagles.
half tempted to give this one to the Eagles, but I think that the Texans will get pressure on Nick Foles and show that he's just not ready to lead this team right now. Like Toby said already, they're missing a bunch of pieces on offense right now. Give me the Texans.
Yeah, the Texans are the most complete team in the AFC that I've seen in quite a while, besides the Colts. So, yeah, give me the Texans.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Texans. Like I said, that Rams game for the Eagles was kind of a fluke, and not playing against the best team, and Houston is a different animal. So I'm giving it to the Texans. The next game up, another divisional matchup in the NFC South, is between the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers.
I would have said the Panthers originally if Cam Newton was playing in this, but he's not. So I think Falcons will win this one.
Yeah, I'll take the Falcons. I mean, both teams have nothing to lose now. They're both out of the playoffs. So give me the Falcons.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Falcons. Same explanation as Derek. Cam Newton out. I think it's Derek Anderson who will start this week for the Panthers. So, I mean, not much else to say there. The next matchup is the Colts game at home against the New York Giants.
Colts will continue their dominance. They're going to be their offense is obviously on a roll right now. I think that their defense will slow down Saquon enough. It's a question of whether or not OBJ is going to play. He's questionable. We don't know whether or not he's going to play or not, but I do believe the Colts will win this one.
Yeah, I'll take the Colts because they're also at home, and I think that's going to play a big factor in this one too. So I'll take the Colts.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Colts. I mean, the Giants, as Derek already said, it's not sure if OBJ can play. And I think they might take the safe route here and say you'd rather sit out for 1 week because we're already out of the playoff contention and can heal up completely before risking an injury. So I'm going with the Colts. The next match is down in Florida between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins.
Give me the Dolphins this week, considering, the Jaguars are just a dumpster.
Yeah, I'll take the Dolphins as well.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Dolphins. Jacksonville. I mean, they probably have the biggest fall off of any team in the Super Bowl area between 2 seasons, from last season in the playoffs and this season. Somewhere near the first pick in the draft, to be honest. That's kind of crazy to see.
Yeah, I know, right?
And yeah, next game up is between the LA Rams and the Arizona Cardinals.
Rams have been struggling, but they're not going to struggle that much against the Cardinals. Give me the Rams.
Yeah. Jeez. You know what? I'll take the Cardinals on this one.
You're not.
Jared Goff has more interceptions in the past 2 games than all the games prior.
All right.
Yeah, all right. Josh, I actually think you're right on that. I hope that you're right on that one. I'm taking the Rams here, but I hope you're right, because if the Rams lose, man, the Saints already have the number 1 spot in the NFC secured. But like I said, I'm also going with the Rams. Yeah, I don't see the Rams losing to the Cardinals right now. Of course, the Cardinals are kind of trending upwards a little bit lately, but they're nowhere near close to the Rams, I think, right now. But Josh, I hope you're right, man.
Yeah, I know. Stranger things have happened.
Stay woke.
And the next matchup is between the Chicago Bears and the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, the more I think of this matchup, the more I'm like, oh, this actually might be a pretty good game. I think the Bears will do a better job than the Seahawks defense did against the 49ers. Give me the Bears.
The Bears. I got the Bears.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Bears. They just have a better offense than the teams that San Francisco played when they won their kind of games where they were the underdogs. So I don't think they can pull it off against Chicago at home. I mean, San Francisco's playing at home. But still, the Chicago defense is a number 2 big for San Francisco right now. And the next game is between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New Orleans Saints.
Well, as much as the Saints have been struggling lately, they are at home this week. I do think that they'll find a way to make it work. I don't think the Steelers are as good as people pan them out to be. Give me the Saints.
Yeah, give me the Saints. I need the Steelers to lose so the Colts can get in the playoffs.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, I'm also going with the Saints.
Go figure.
We're back home in the dome, and we might have our entire offensive line back to normal, and possibly getting a second real target for Drew Brees back in Ted Ginn Jr. And I think they're gonna secure the number 1 seed in the NFC on their own with a win against Pittsburgh this week. Then we go on with the game on Sunday night between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Seattle Seahawks.
Give me the Chiefs. I can't imagine if the Seahawks losing to the 49ers the way they did, that they wouldn't lose to the Chiefs.
Give me the Seahawks on this one.
Josh is doing what I did, employing logic.
Yeah.
Like that pick when I said the Seahawks are going to beat the Carolina Panthers, and you both laughed at me.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Or the time I picked the Denver Broncos and you guys picked the Chargers and you both laughed at me.
You put the Chargers right there with the Broncos now. I guarantee you 10 times out of 10, the Chargers do not lose that game.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But yeah, this week I'm going with Kansas City. I don't trust the Seahawks, especially after the game that they had against San Francisco. So I don't see Kansas City as strong as they were at the beginning of the season, but still strong enough to beat the Seahawks. And the last game that we have, another divisional matchup in the AFC West. On Monday night, Denver Broncos at the Oakland Raiders.
Give me the Broncos this time. Josh's favorite team.
Yeah. I'll take the Broncos as well.
Yeah.
Somebody tells me Peterman's going to start.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Broncos here. I don't see Oakland winning against the Broncos right now. I don't even know how they won the games that they won this season. But yeah, Broncos here. And now at the end of our predictions, actually I wanted to do this before the predictions, but yeah, now we did it already, and so we're doing after it. The standings for the predictions, cause the guys who are listening to this on Spotify, you never saw the graphics at the end of the videos like the guys on YouTube do, and have no idea what the standings and the predictions are right now. So the standings right now are in a tied second positions are you guys, Derek and Josh, with a score of 61-36. I'm 2 games ahead of both of you guys with a 63-34. Kind of made up for it in the last 2 weeks.
This week, Toby went 10-5, got some very lucky picks, and now Josh and I are at the bottom of the pack. And just a quick flashback to the time that Toby said, "Oh, I'm terrible at picking teams." He still is, okay? He got lucky, okay? He got lucky.
You want to know what lucky's going to be? Having the Seahawks, the Cardinals, and I believe the other one was the Bills win.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those are going to be
the only one I could legit see winning is the Seahawks. I don't see the Bills. I don't see the Cardinals.
But remember, they're playing lackluster teams.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the Bills a little bit, like I said. If they played at home, I would pick the Bills. But yeah, so that's it for this week's episode of the Third Down Squad podcast. Thanks for joining us again. It was a pleasure as always. Like and subscribe, follow on Spotify, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.